Welcome to Access Zen with Gregory Foster. Our program will help you set a more perfect balance between your inner world and the outside world. And now, here's your host, Gregory Foster.
And good morning. How's everyone doing out there this week? Another beautiful week. Well, we've got ourselves just a wonderful show today. We've got world famous U.S. Olympian Jeff Galloway on the show, who has written 20 books. He's been running for 52 years, and specifically in the 72 Olympics, if you can believe this, he was a 10K runner. And he happened to run at a time when, you know, we talk a lot about terrorist activity that goes on in our world today. Well, back then, Jeff will tell you some of the events that were happening and how challenging it was for the athlete just to maintain his sense of concentration as some of the things that were happening. So on last week's show, titled Soul-Centered Rockstar and the Revolution of Good News, we had Ed the Word singing his folk rock eclectic music along with his lovely wife Jennifer, and that was just a wonderful pairing with Craig Renwick, our executive from Fox, with that incredible word blog show that you can get at his, if you go to craigrenwick.com, you can subscribe. So if you want to listen to the shows, and I do want emphasis before we get into this week's show, that you can listen to last week's show by going to my website. I'll give you two ways to get there. Go to my website at accesszenradio.com, click on radio shows, and there's a way you can download it from iTunes right on the website, or you can listen to it right on the website. Second way, if you Facebook me, click on like, and that's Access Zen Radio at the Facebook search bar, and we put all the shows on there as well. So tell your friends, listen to the shows, spread the word, and a lot of really great musical artists are going to be coming on the shows in the weeks and months ahead. If any of the listeners out there have a special artist, an independent artist, somebody playing in their garage that you're really inspired by, maybe you saw them at a church event or in the park someplace, and you think that they would really add to the value of the show and some of the, the guests and other featured speakers we have, you can send us an email to accesszenradio@yahoo.com. And we'll take a look at it, and maybe, you never know, maybe your favorite artist down the street will appear on our show. So again, thank you so much for being fans of the show, and we look forward to your support in the coming weeks ahead as we have some really, really great shows, great, wonderful episodes. Very, very inspiring folks. So today's show, which we're calling the Zen of Run, Walk, Run, Breaking Through the Wall. So all you runners, professional folks, and students who are looking to get an edge in your life, join U.S. Olympic 10K runner from the 72 Munich Olympics, Jeff Galloway. He's today going to share for us his amazing breakthrough in his run, walk, run approach. And I will tell you that the approach that Jeff basically takes is one of patience and one that takes a lot of emphasis and focus on being very mindful. And you'll hear from Jeff today as he'll tell you his incredible story, again, how he's been running for 52 years. He's got 20 books, and his latest, which is called Mental Training, The Key to Motivation. So let's make sure that we get off the couch and get running with Jeff Galloway today. So I'd like to read a quote that I think kind of encapsulates who Jeff is and what he's all about. And you're going to hear him as he tells his story again of the Munich Olympics. You're going to hear him talk about his Zolo application, which will allow you to basically run and then listen to music and get great coaching. He'll tell you all about that. But let me just read you this quote because I think it kind of encapsulates everything we need to know about Jeff. He says, "This past year, my 52nd year of running, was the best of my life. My mission is to help others avoid aches and pains while experiencing all of accomplishment, an attitude enhancement." Wow, that's amazing. Just to give you a little bit of background on me, I was actually a cross-country runner in high school. I was a big basketball player, and the cross-country coach came up and said, hey, you want to really get some endurance for your basketball season? Come join me. So had a wonderful experience with that. I'm still a runner to this day. I live in Huntington Beach, and I love running up and down the sand, a lot of times barefoot. So it's just a wonderful release for me and get a lot out of it.
There's nothing like running on the beach, is there?
It really isn't. It's spectacular. The other thing I wanted to mention to you is that, I've been aware of your run, walk, run philosophy for a while now, and while I can't say that I've actually applied the program, there's kind of an intuitiveness that I notice when I do running, is that I find that I like to do a lot of walking to get kind of warmed up, then I'll run for a little bit, and then I'll walk. And when I really got a chance to sit down and look at your material, I realized that I was actually doing it the right way intuitively and didn't even know it. And I thought I was doing something wrong. It's like I've got to push myself and run every second, right?
Well, there are some lessons that we learn earlier in life, often from coaches or PE instructors in school. And what I learned when I researched for my mental training book is that these early lessons that we learn as children are very powerfully embedded into the subconscious reflex brain as hardwired behavior patterns. And when we depart from what we were instructed, even though it may be really bad advice, we get anxiety feelings. The hormones are actually produced when we start defying what has been embedded in there. The good news is that when it comes to taking walk breaks, even though we may feel that way at first, by taking control over that subconscious brain with the conscious brain, the frontal lobe, we can retrain that whole behavior pattern. And the best way I've found to do that is to use one of my run, walk, run timers that either beeps or vibrates to get you into a rhythm.
That's great. And we'll talk more about your little application that downloads on the phone. You can tell us more about that as well.
Good.
So let's get into a little bit of your background. So I know that you were born in Raleigh, North Carolina, and spent a lot of time in Atlanta. Is that correct?
Well, my dad was in the Navy, and I did spend a lot of time in Raleigh, North Carolina, and Moultrie, Georgia. That's where my grandparents were. And when
Georgia.
my dad was, when my dad was at sea, we would be with either set of grandparents. I'm actually going right on up to Raleigh tomorrow to meet with our training group up there, and it's wonderful to go back to my roots. But settled in Atlanta when Dad got out of the Navy in 1958. I was a fat kid. I was lazy. I had been able to sort of sneak out of physical activity that was presented because we were moving so much. I went to 13 schools my first 7 years. But in the 8th grade in Atlanta, I was forced to choose because the school I went to required athletics or strenuous activity after school. And I asked the other lazy friends that I'd gotten to know what they were going to do. They told me winter cross-country in the winter season because the cross-country coach was the most lenient in the school. And all you had to do was tell him that you were going to run in the woods on the trails, and once you got into the woods, 200 yards later, you could just hide out and not do anything. Well, I did that for the first 2 days, and as fate would have it, on the third day, an older kid that I liked said, "Galloway, you're coming with us today." And I said, "Oh, my gosh, these kids actually run." I went out with them with the intention of grabbing my hamstring when I got to the edge of the woods, but they started telling jokes that were actually pretty good. And then they started telling gossip about the teachers, and through the interchange and the bonding that occurred during the next 10 weeks, I was hooked.
Well, that's just incredible, and so that's basically how you got hooked on running. Is it became an enjoyable social activity? Is that right?
That's true, and this is something that I've found consistent through my 52 years of running. In groups, people tend to bond together and tell things about themselves they normally would not do, and as such, the group really comes together. Lifelong friendships are forged. In our 90 programs, Galloway programs around the U.S., I see it happening every single week. It's wonderful stuff.
I also picked up on the part about kind of being the fat kid in like the 8th grade. Did you feel like you were kind of picked on a little bit back then?
There's no doubt about it. I was definitely out of place during those time periods, talking about the 1950s when most kids were very skinny, and I was not. And I really stood out. I was made fun of. Whenever I tried to do sports, I was terrible because I had never acquired the skills necessary for doing it. I was the last one picked in sports when that happened, and I shied away from doing any physical activity. It hurt.
Yeah, and you got the bullies and the people making fun of you. I had a similar experience, and I had a big growth spurt, and all of a sudden I became a lot faster, and I could shoot baskets. Basketball kind of became my thing, but I can relate. I know where you're coming from.
Well, now it's a really neat heritage thing for me because I can identify with what the obese kids are going through in our society.
Yeah, it's not a lot of fun.
But the other lesson here, and I also hear this from a number of former fat kids and former fat adults, it is possible to turn this around, to gain control over your weight, to feel better physically, to have the empowerment mentally and spiritually, to be able to make those changes if you'll simply do some really gentle, light exercise. And walking is the first version that really works for a lot of people. And then if you want to enhance the attitude boost, it's very clear that short segments of running in your walk allow you to do that.
Yes, that's incredible. Jeff, we're going to be going on a break here in about 30 seconds, but I just want to thank you so much for everything you've said so far. When we come back, I want you to take us up to continue with your story and tell us about the Munich Olympics. I'm Gregory Foster, and you're listening to Access Zen.
And now, let's return to Access Zen.
And I'm Gregory Foster, and we're back live here with Jeff Galloway. Jeff, you were just kind of getting into your story of what inspired you to pick up running, so why don't we continue there and take us through how you began to become more of a competitive runner, and ultimately I want to talk about the Munich Olympics. Well,
any activity that you do for 52 years, you're going to have a whole lot of stories, and I love the stories.
That's fantastic. So when you were junior high school, you started running. When did it really click in for you, like, hey, I want to do this?
The bonding that did occur in that first group was so powerful in that these folks were real friends, and these were the first real friends that I'd ever had in my life, because you get out on runs and there are no holes barred as to what you say, and if somebody brings up something that doesn't make sense, people are not bashful about saying, now, I don't believe that's true. And so there was an honesty, and then there was fun, and we played little games, and we helped one another get through the tough times in the workouts, and then in other areas of life. I found that also that the attitude that I had, the good attitude boost after a run, even after a really hard run in which I was extremely tired, but that attitude boost was incredible. I felt better after a run than I used to feel at any point throughout the whole week. And so I wanted more of this, and so I continued to run through high school and through college, but I didn't really show a lot of promise at the national level. I did not win a scholarship. I didn't even qualify for the state championships in the state of Georgia until my senior year. And so no one would really have guessed that I would be in the national rankings or even come close to making the Olympic team. People would have laughed at that. I just kept improving and did not give up. One of the great attributes that I've seen in a lot of Olympic athletes is simply not giving up, is staying with it, refining what you're doing, avoiding problems that you've had and making corrections, and then moving on from from the learning experience, and that's certainly what I did.
Well, that's tremendous, and I think that there's a lot of life lessons to be learned from that in our everyday life, because folks run into obstacles in their business life, they run into obstacles in school, and folks want to give up. And I think you and I probably noticed, in recent times here, that there's kind of been more of a tendency for folks to want to take it easy and not push themselves through. And I think that your advice on keep improving and not giving up, I think that really makes a lot of sense.
Well, there certainly are challenges that any physical training program is going to present, and you have to overcome those. One of the greatest challenges is fatigue if you're training for a long-distance event, and there certainly will be some fatigue in a half or a full marathon training program. Most people in our society never really have to push themselves now to that point of almost exhaustion or extreme fatigue. And
yes,
by going through a regular training program, if you have enough walk breaks into the runs, it engages so many positive things inside. You have a goal, so you keep going a little bit further on each long run. Then you have the rest afterwards for the body to rebuild. And you discover that even though you seriously question your ability to go on at certain points, there is extra reserve strength inside of you that keeps you going. And you're able to apply those sources of strength to other challenges in your life.
Yes. And I found that to be very true. Just that 1 year, and of course, high school is probably one of the most formative times, but just going through that experience, and I always wanted to quit because I'd start to get that, the phlegm that comes up and just the achy feeling at around the fourth mile. And I would always want to give up, but I'd be with these group of folks. It'd be like you say, laughing and joking, and I didn't want to be the guy to drop out, so I'd stick with it. And I will tell you that has served me well in my life.
The other thing that I more recently discovered in the last year in researching for the mental training book is this reflex brain, the more ancient brain that we inherited from our animal ancestors, that subconscious part of us. It monitors stress all day long, among other things that it monitors. And when the stress level is deemed a little too high, this reflex brain takes subconscious action to get us to stop adding to the stress, if it's physical stress or whatever. One of the things that is known to happen, a condition known of as TMS, tension myositis syndrome, is that under significant stress, the reflex brain actually constricts blood flow to certain areas that are damaged, causing the pain to dramatically increase, far beyond what would normally be the case. And in most cases, the pain wouldn't be an issue at all. But when the reflex brain is trying to lower stress level and you are doing some physical activity, it will, if you don't take action to lower the stress, then it will. And it'll do it subconsciously so you don't realize what's happening. So there actually are a good number of running injuries that are either stress-induced or they're magnified dramatically by stress. The other thing that the reflex brain does under stress is it causes the secretion of anxiety hormones and then negative hormones. And as you proceed farther when you're tired and you don't do anything about the buildup of stress levels, such as taking adequate walk breaks, then these negative attitude hormones are going to cause you to essentially have no motivation to continue. And you can take action on both of these conditions by acknowledging that darn reflex brain is doing this to you subconsciously, in taking control by the conscious brain, saying things like, reflex, I know what you're doing, and I'm not going to let you do it. Open the blood flow back up and stop producing those negative hormones. It sounds silly, but that action shifts control away from that reflex brain and into the frontal lobe, where you can then take action, take control of your existence.
Jeff, I think you've just given the best technical explanation I've ever heard for positive self-talk.
And that is what it's all about. Positive self-talk or mantras or whatever you want to call it is simply moving your consciousness into the frontal lobe, the unique human part of us. And that'll take control over your existence. You can be in the moment.
Yep, I totally get that. When I go into, and I do a lot of meditation, that's where I put a lot of my concentration to and focus on a lot of positive thoughts. So what Jeff is saying absolutely works. You've given an incredibly technical explanation for how it works, and I think that's wonderful. Thank you so much for that. That's beautiful.
And it is detailed and also given other manifestations in my book, Mental Training, if you're looking for further resource in that.
Mental Training, yes. That sounds like a wonderful book, really for anyone, right? Even if you're in business, learning how to train your mind and incorporating some of these running techniques into your life could have incredible benefits, correct?
I really haven't seen any book that does detail that buildup of stress and then what happens in the reflex brain as a result of that. So it actually does apply to any area in life where you might have stress that tends to cause you to be unmotivated.
Like someone who's working excessive hours, or someone who's studying too many hours, maybe they're in their graduate school, or even someone who's maybe been overseas in a military situation. Those are folks who really receive a lot of stress, right?
Absolutely. And the reality is that all of us are under stress all day long. If we manage it, then we can keep it at a level that doesn't cause these negative things to get out of control. But if they do, the simple fix is to set up a training program that can shift you into that frontal lobe.
That's wonderful, Jeff. And when we come back from our break, I want you to walk us through that step by step, including your application. I'm Gregory Foster, and you're listening to Access Zen.
And now, let's return to Access Zen.
And we're back. I'm with Jeff Galloway. Jeff, you're telling us some really great stuff here for handling stress. I want you to continue with that thought, and then I want to kind of take us through to, speaking of stress, the 1972 Olympics was pretty stressful.
There's no doubt that it was. However, just to preface that segment, I was most of us were in our 20s, and males in their 20s think they're going to live forever, so they don't tend to react to world crises as greatly as some other age groups would.
Yes, no, I recall fondly being that way in my 20s.
Yeah. Thankfully, we do learn a few things along the way.
Yeah, we do realize that we are not going to live forever, and we better take good care of ourselves, right?
It's all about conserving resources, and that is exactly what, it's the greatest lesson, I believe, that you learn when you go through an endurance training program. That's why the run, walk, run method works so well, because it allows the muscles to never get spent. Each walk break erases fatigue.
So take us through that a little bit more. Let's say that I'm a early runner. Maybe I'm in high school or college, and I'm starting to run. And will this technique work for me?
It works for everyone. It's a little harder to sell walk breaks to high school boys. And even girls. The concept that I used when I coached at the high school level for 6 years was on long runs. I used the walk breaks then, and I also used liberal walk breaks for those who were beginning runners. Believe it or not, at the school where I taught and where I coached, there were a lot of novices who had never run before who came out for cross country because it was a no-cut sport, and the school had a no-cut policy. It became a social thing, and the kids were in it for the right reasons. They wanted to get in shape, but they were in terrible shape. And through liberal use of walk breaks, the beginners enjoyed the workouts. And 2, 3, 4 years later, these bare beginners were often in the top 5 on the cross-country team. But if they had not had a good experience that first year, there's no way that they would have come out for it later on. But the long runs will be less arduous with walk breaks at any level. I even used walk breaks when I was training for the Olympics on long runs, and they allowed me to recover so much faster.
So you would recommend this even for someone in high school who may have that macho resistance, I don't need to take a break?
The bottom line is that long runs are going to give you a wealth of benefit, even if you're running fast. I found that in a 5K distance, runners tend to improve if they don't change anything else by increasing the length of the long run up to 12 miles, running that every other week. But if a high schooler runs the 12 miles hard without walk breaks, they're going to be broken down for 2 or 3 days and not able to benefit from any speed work that they would do to get them faster in the race. So it's all about recovery. And if you put walk breaks into the long runs, you'll get the same benefit based on the distance, but you won't be broken down and can go out and do the hard work necessary.
That's wonderful. So I want to take you back to the stress thing. So clearly you have really mastered the frontal lobe and how to maintain mastery of your will and staying incredibly focused. And I realize that you ran the 10K in the 72 Olympics. What was it like for you when you went over there and the crisis and just, so our listeners have a good background, if you could give us maybe just a quick, historical snapshot of what was going on with the terrorist activity and the hijacking of that plane?
Well, one of the things that is not very well understood is that there wasn't very good communication within Olympic Village, so we really didn't know hardly anything that was going on at that time. And any information that was put out was mostly in German, and very few of us spoke German. But just to give you an idea, the day after the incident in which the Israelis were captured and put under guard as hostages by the terrorists, the day after we went out, a group of 5 of us went out for our daily 5-mile run around the Olympic complex. And we went to this back gate that we always used, which usually was guarded by one sleepy German guard. Well, that day, there were about 12 or 15 uniformed soldiers with submachine guns. And there was a whole crowd of people on the other side, and we'd never seen people on the other side of this little back gate. So we ducked our way through the little entrance there, and we realized that this crowd was a bunch of reporters trying to get information about what was going on in the village. And they were throwing questions at us like, "What's going on in there? What did you see? Did you hear the shots?" And we didn't have any idea what they were talking about. So they had to tell us. Now, I will tell you that one of the greatest things that came out of that is it instilled within the team members the chance to think about what this experience meant to them. And we had some team meetings that were very well chronicled by a movie that was put out based on the life of Steve Prefontaine, who was one of our top stars in the distances for many years, and certainly on that 72 team. But the movie is called Prefontaine, and it has Jared Leto as the lead character. It's a very good movie. In the movie, they show a pretty good simulation of some of the team meetings in which some of the people would say, we should disband the Olympics in honor of our fallen comrades, and most everybody else said, "No way! We've been training for years and years to reach this point, and we're not going to let the terrorists take this away from us." Yeah. And this was the decision that was made by the Olympic Committee. The only sort of little finagling that was done in the Prefontaine movie in order to move the movie along, it actually showed the Prefontaine character looking out his balcony and seeing the incident occur, and that wasn't possible because there was a high-rise building between where we stayed and where the incident took place. So, I know why they did that, because it really moved the storyline along so that you could know what was going on in a few short frames.
And feel some of the tension. So what was it like for you personally? I mean, I realize you were kind of sheltered from all of that, but what was it like for you knowing, once you became aware that there was some pretty crazy stuff going on? What was it like for you?
I was in my mid-20s, thought I was going to live forever. Really didn't process it at the time. I was more interested in seeing what was going on around me and observing the reactions that runners had. And it was quite interesting to see that some of the athletes were really good at maintaining their focus. Frank Shorter was one.
Yes.
I mean, he clearly benefited, in my opinion, from that whole incident, in that a lot of athletes didn't maintain their focus, but Frank is so good at that, and he rose to the top mentally and maintained that as he ran his race. There were other runners that were clearly shaken by it, and Prefontaine had some many moments like that in which he really was aggravated over the whole situation because there's nothing you can do about it. There was a delay in the schedule of a day, and this he was upset about the fact that some of the athletes that were doubling back from the 10K, like Lasse Viren, had a better opportunity to recover. But there's nothing you can do about those things. But it really brought out a lot of the personality traits of the various runners, and I found that fascinating.
I think that is fascinating, and there are clear differences between how Frank approached it mentally and how Prefontaine addressed it, and probably lots of other folks, right?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And I think that when you really draw the differences between Frank and Pre, you can really see how that whole series of things added to the stress that Pre already had on him anyway. First Olympics, and very young, and really untested with a lot of these high-level world-class athletes. And Pre clearly had the chance to win that race or to certainly get a medal, and which is just amazing at his age that he was ready to do that. But it shook him up. And when you start adding stress to a very high level of stress anyway, you're going to have certain things happen in that reflex brain, such as the shunting of blood flow to certain key muscles, and you're not going to be at your best.
So this is a good thing for our listeners to pay attention to, because even if you're not a world-class runner or a world-class athlete, when you get under stress, as you've just described it, those kind of conditions still happen, right? Everybody
has some form of stress, unless you've had a lobotomy or something like that. But seriously, the stress can be managed. You don't have to gain control of the situation by doing away with the stress. You just have to acknowledge that stress is producing that, and that acknowledgement brings you into that frontal lobe, so that then you can take control over the situation, and then you can reprogram the reflex brain.
Love that. So not trying to like wall it off or compartmentalize, actually acknowledging the stress is real, and then focusing your energy on overcoming it.
Absolutely. And by taking control in the reflex brain, there is a confidence level that is raised, which reduces the production of the anxiety and negative hormones in the reflex brain and starts the production of positive hormones. It's very well known that your belief structure, particularly in a positive, realistic belief, can produce positive attitude hormones.
Positive, realistic, and that's what we talk about on the show all the time. Don't create a Pollyanna around it. Make it real.
Absolutely.
Make it believable. Make it credible.
It's got to be believable. It's got to be doable, but it must be positive if you want positive hormones to be produced. Change your attitude.
And let's face it, and I know I don't know if you follow the Lakers or not, but you see even a great world-class athlete like Kobe getting a little bit upset with athletes, and you can see the negative stress that has on his game, and of course they went on and lost that game. So it's important, folks, to manage our stress. Jeff, we're going to be going to a break. When we come back, I want to talk about your involvement with the female athlete, the marathons for the female athlete, and how that's become adopted in the Olympics. I'm Gregory Foster, your host, and you're listening to Access Zen. Hey, Ed, what's your name and where you at?
All right, my name is Mr. Goodword, and I am all the way up high in San Francisco. Gotta get it moving, gotta get it feeling right, 'cause there's a lot of darkness floating around. Oh, 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 yeah. But let me tell you this. I'm so happy, said I don't know where I stand. I ain't got no money and I ain't got no plans, no big ideas and no satellites. When I walk down Abbott Kinney, somehow I feel alright, yeah. La 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 la, I feel alright, yeah. And I don't need a news team to keep me up to date. No comedy TV show for when I stay up late. No high-speed connection, no cable modem, just this whole mess of songs. Somehow I'm the one that wrote them. It's alright, yeah. La 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 la, it's alright. Yeah, la 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 la, it's alright. Yeah, la 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 la, it's alright. Yeah, it's alright, it's alright. It's alright, it's alright, it's alright, it's alright, it's alright. Yeah, it's alright, yeah, 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 yeah. That's the way we do it now. People, person, people. We make definitions to define the evil. We change the names, we make the people get the names, grab for the label. If you are able to turn the table, to recognize what's real and complete the fable. Remember when we was kids in school? Every day we would act like fools, wondering whether or not we was cool. My life was screwed, I was the tool. Now, however, suicide never. I reevaluate so my lyrics come clever. I sever ties with paranoid eyes that look too deep but don't recognize that truth and love can unify a nation. 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 Multiply that by the strength of God's will, you'll find a brand new persuasion. Crystal blue stargazing, it's amazing what can occur in the blur. One little blink, one grain of sand. Who is not afraid to think? Soon every other grain in your brain will start to think, and we'll all sit and watch the boat of Babylon sink. But what do you think? What do you think? That's the question. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? That's the question. 'Cause I'm so happy, said I don't know where I stand. Ain't got no money and I ain't got no plans. No big ideas, see I'm really not that bright. When I walk into Abbott's Habits, somehow I feel alright, I feel alright, yeah. La 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 la, I feel alright. Yeah, la 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 la, I feel alright. Yeah. I feel alright, feel alright, feel alright.
And now, let's return to Access Zen.
I'm Gregory Foster, and we're back with Jeff Galloway. And Jeff was kind of walking us through the stressful conditions that happened at the Olympics and really kind of giving us a great overview, folks, of how we can use this in our daily lives, even if we're not marathon runners. Right, Jeff? So continue with that, on the stress management side and how we can use your run, walk, run approach. And let's talk a little bit about your applications before we get into your involvement with the female athlete.
Well, the application, the app is put out by Lolo Fit, and I'm very, very proud of it. They have attached music to my coaching. It's called the Galloway Ultimate 5K app. So it's available for those that are beginning. It has beginning programs. It has programs for those that want to improve their time if you're an experienced runner. And even if you're training for a marathon or half marathon, the training will keep you entertained, and it also gives tips along the way because I'm coaching you throughout these apps throughout a season. Lolo Fit puts it out. The most innovative part of it is that as the pace picks up in the coaching, they pick up the beat of the music, so it's synced up with the pace.
So I can actually pick my own tunes if I like Nirvana or Pearl Jam or the Black Eyed Peas. I can program that in?
I do not know. That's a technical question. I have heard of people that have done that, quite honestly, but I don't know how it's done, but they do. You just go to Lolo Fit, and you can ask them those questions.
That sounds great. So walk me through it. Let's say I've got my my headphones on. I'm down at the beach. Walk me through how the program might work. Let's say I'm going to do a 5K.
Well, it's set out to take you from day one. You're just starting into the training to the full term of the training program, day by day. It's mainly designed for those who want to run every other day, but you can run every day with it. And it has a warm-up in each session. It has the bulk of the workout, the middle part of it. It includes some drills to improve running form and to improve speed if that's what you want. And it has long runs that build up beyond the distance of the race in order to build the endurance that you need. With the music that they provide, the long runs are fun. So you don't really have to be bored when you're training for the 5K.
Oh, that's great.
It also
so this is... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, it has coaching through the race itself also. So that's another element that people like.
Tell us about the coaching.
You mean the coaching that's in the app?
Yes.
Because I also have several other coaching programs, but in the app, I have taken the major points that I would be giving if you were on you were going out for a run day by day, and I was right there with you. And so I explain what you need to do. The difference is it's like I am running with you, because while you're running, you're getting coaching advice.
That's awesome. So it's almost like, and you're obviously a very in-demand speaker, so that's a pretty good bargain,
Well, what's interesting is that there's a tremendous demand for that. We didn't really know when we put this out about 3.5 weeks ago, but within the first day, this Galloway Ultimate 5K app moved up to number 1 on the sports and fitness category, and it was, I believe, 123, ranked 123rd out of 350,000 apps.
Wow. Well, that tells you a great deal of how important and valuable your services are, Jeff.
Well, I don't know that it was me. I just know that people like it. So.
And he's humble, too, folks. You got to like that. Hey, so I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the female athlete because I know you've kind of been pretty innovative in that area. Do you want to talk about that and how that got introduced into the Olympics?
Love to. The reality back in the 70s is that 95% of the runners were male. There weren't many women running at all, but it was growing, and so it was very satisfying to see women enjoy the same things that men had been enjoyed in distance running for the decade and a half that I had been running at that time. Now, I had been involved with coordinating and directing the Peachtree Road Race for 3 years. As of 1978, we passed the torch on to another race director that year, and a friend of mine and I, Bill Neese, decided that we wanted another goal, and that goal became very quickly the inclusion of a women's marathon in the Olympics. We just knew that it should be in there. We saw among the women that we worked with just a tremendous enjoyment of the long-distance process. And there were a lot of people that believed in the late 70s that women had a higher capacity for doing endurance because they had a higher fat level and other metabolic issues and patience that really allowed them to be natural marathon runners. That said, the Olympics was, IOC was dead set against it, and there had been several people that had tried to get it included. So my friend
What was
Bill,
the basic resistance, do you think?
There were a lot of reasons. Politically, there weren't many countries that had women running marathons at the time. So it was a pretty much legitimate turn down. You have to have a certain number of countries represented.
Gotcha.
So anyway, Bill had a friend who was the regional director in Atlanta for Avon Products. And he had done a number of projects with this fellow at Avon and sort of knew what Avon was about. And so my friend Bill and I went out and we presented this proposal to conduct a World Marathon Championship for women in Atlanta that would then be done every year, and that this would be backed up with an effort to encourage the IOC due to getting other nations to participate so that the number of countries where women ran marathons would increase. In any case, the fellow's name is Al Modelmog. He was the Avon regional director, and he was a wonderful guy, and he got it, and he presented it to corporate in New York, and they sent some people down to us, and they turned us down. They said, no, we don't want to do this. Well, the three of us, Al Modelmog, Bill Neese, and myself, just knew that it was perfect for Avon to do this. And so we went back to them a second time. They sent a different team in their promotions department down. Second time they bought it. And we conducted the first Avon International Women's Marathon in Atlanta. And wow. It was a huge success. It got the IOC's attention. Avon brought in a woman named Catherine Switzer to oversee the development of that Avon series. She did a wonderful job, but we're so proud to have initiated this, to have sold it to Avon, and to have provided this opportunity for women to compete at this high level. And I've got to tell you, the boom in running is fueled mostly today and for the last 10 years by women. Over 65% of the new runners are women.
What percentage?
And over 65% of new runners.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's awesome.
Now, here's the deal. Do you know when the increase really started in women coming into running?
And Jeff, we're just about out of time, so let's wrap up that point, and I want to have the listeners be able to know where to reach you, and obviously the name of your new book is Mental Training.
Well, very quickly, it was 1984 and 85, the year that Joni Benoit won the women's marathon, and the focus of that propelled thousands of women to start, and that has continued.
And I'll bet you most of our listeners have no idea how you contributed and also how Women's Olympics evolved. I'm sure some women may think it's always been there, right?
Well, you're right, but I had a small part in it. Very proud to have had that small part.
You were an amazing catalyst. I'm Gregory Foster, listening to Access N. Jeff Galloway, our wonderful host this week. Thank you so much for being on the show, Jeff. Very informative. I wish we had another hour. We've got so much great things to talk about. What's the best website for listeners to go to get your product and also your books?
JeffGalloway.com. You can also email me from that website, JeffGalloway.com.
And I will tell you, Jeff is very responsive, a wonderful human being, and an incredible runner. Jeff, thank you so much for being on the show this week. We'll be talking later. You take care now.
Thanks, Gregory. Bye.
Bye-bye. Make it a wonderful week. Please incorporate all of Jeff's wonderful suggestions on taking control of our lives and positive self-talk, and let's get off that couch and run. I'm Gregory Foster, and this was Access N.